muted. Good evening, Barbados. Good evening, Barbados. I was muted. How are you doing? I am feeling 246 power. I am feeling just the zest and energy, and that something is happening. Are you feeling that? Something great is happening. Something on the horizon is happening. Good evening, Barbados. Good evening, Barbados. Wow, we are up. Nobody's telling us to get up, to wake up. Listen, we've been sitting up in that bed, and a lot of us have come out of the bed, and we're walking around and marching too. Marching too. Let me march, let me march, let me march. And that march is happening on Saturday. Good evening to everyone. Everyone. Rameem, good evening. Oh, Rameem was there from early 5:50 p.m. You were there, Rameem, waiting. And that's what I'm talking about. There is a 246 power. There is an energy that is being released into the atmosphere. Barbadians are coming together and they're doing great things. Look at this, guys. Look at this. We're doing great things. What is this I have in my hand? Who can guess it? Who can guess what this is? Who can guess what this is? That's what happens when we come together. When we come together, Rameem, great things are happening. David, good evening, David. Rose 511. 5111. Good evening, family. Hope everybody had a good day, and we are looking forward to a good show this evening. Yes, we shall have a great show this evening. Simone Daniel, listen, I was reading your comments. Simone is a serious young girl, and I don't know if she's young. Simone says, I listened to part of the estimates debate today, and they could not even state how much revenue was accumulated via sugar sweetened beverage taxes upon taxes, and no accountability. We have never been taxed like this before, ever in the history of Barbados. This government has collected more revenue than everybody and all the governments. What do we have to show for it? Oh Lordy, Simone, your comments are have me going. Marilyn is asking which car park. No, this is MASSY Car Park right there at Kensington Oval. Kensington Oval, that's where we're going to be on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And let me tell you, we move at 10. We move at 10. Yes, Pete Way, good evening, Pete Way. Good evening, Pete Way. How are you doing? How are you doing? Are you ready for Saturday? Saturday is going to be a big day because we're coming out in our numbers. We're breaking all records on Saturday. Prepare, start to work it out. Get your shopping done, get the housework done, do some stuff from Friday so that you can be out there. And guess what, people? We are going to be able to use Independence Square, you know. Yes, Victor. We are gonna use Independence Square. Diana Seeley, good evening. Good evening. Erwin Nurse, good evening. Anika Hope, good evening. And Anika, I hope to see you at this march. I know you weren't well for a couple of them, but I'm hoping to see you. Get a big hug. Anika is a warrior, and she wasn't well and wasn't at the marches, but it's this Saturday at 7 o'clock, at 10 o'clock. This Saturday, 10 a.m. 10 a.m. on Saturday. Galvez, we're going to be there. I know you'll be there with your family. Loyal Daughter 666, how are you doing? How are you doing? Good evening, Loyal Opposition. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come, and a change is here. Barbadians are coming together. It's happening. Oh yes, it will. Stand up and keep on keeping on. Freedom is here. Victory is ours. Yes. I tell you, I am pumped tonight. I am pumped. Please like and share, guys. Like and share, no? Like and share, like it, like the you see the little like button there. Yes, so hit like. Diana Seeley, Gal. Oh my Lord, Marcia. Shabbat Shalom. She says, that's Marcia. Shabbat Shalom. Yes, Michael Harewood, guys, we need to see you down there. There are 350 of you on, and we need all 350 of you on Saturday. Saturday at 10 o'clock. That's when we come together and we make a difference. Next Saturday, the 23rd. It is the 23rd, March the 23rd. March the 23rd. March the 23rd. Next week, Saturday. Next week, Saturday is when we're going to be there, right there at MASSY Car Park, Kensington Oval. And we go all the way to Independence Square. Next week, Saturday, 10 o'clock. Yes, we can't miss it. Heathcliff, good night. Joy and Faith, good night. Cecilia Millar, good night. Edward Tull, good night. Oh, wow. CG, oh, Lord, CG, CG is going to make those placards. And CG, please tell us exactly what time you're going to be there, the days you're going to be there. I want to make sure I'm down there this time. I wasn't there last time, but I want to make sure that I come down and spend a couple hours with you. And she already has those ideas of what to put on the placards already. Okay. So let's get going. Let's get going, guys. The march is coming up March 23rd. 23rd is it? 23rd. Next week, Saturday. Llewellyn March, Llewellyn Eiffel, Edwin Price. Hey, Edwin, I hope you can make it, Edwin, on next week, Saturday. Wendy Ford, listen, you remember we had such a great time, guys? We had such a good time. Oh, wow, somebody wants us to play the Llewellyn March anthem. Yes, we're going to get that, played later in the program. Wonderful, wonderful. At this time, welcome to everybody, even though I'm not able to say welcome to everybody. Natasha Hope, Sugarcane Sanchez, Saving the Lost Ministries, Beverly Prescott, Loyal Black Rose, Marcy, David Bowen, Jermaine 123, Sam Clark. Welcome, 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 everybody, and share, like and share, subscribe. Yes, subscribe. When you subscribe, you hit that bell. What that is going to do is that every time that I'm on, that you're going to get a notification that I'm on. Okay, so it's important. Please share and let people know if you're in a group, various groups, share in the groups and let people know that we're on. Education is going on this program. The class has begun, and we don't do anything without. We're not doing anything without the anthem, right? We have to have that anthem there. We have to have the anthem. We've got to have the anthem. And yes, it's so important for us. That's our theme song because, you know, that's what we line up behind, our anthem. Yes?
Oh
Yes, 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 Barbados. Yes, Barbados. Craftsmen of our faith, craftsmen of our faith. And I tell you, every time I listen to it, a different line stands out. And this is the line I've been thinking about, being craftsmen of our faith. And what I mean is, as a craftsman, if you're into craft, it means that you are creating something, right? Craftsmen of our faith is that what that means is that we are creating our fate. We're creating our destiny. We're determining what our destiny is going to be. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening when we come out to march. We are standing up. And that's what those people in St. James, that's what they did with Digicel. And when we come out to march, we are saying, listen, we are calling for the resignation of the prime minister. I'm very, very serious about it. We are calling for the resignation of the PM. We're saying no salary increase for the PM and the MPs. They claim April the 1st is when they're going to have salary increase. For what? What have you done? As the song says, what have you done lately? What have you done? No muzzling of citizens. Removal of sections of the cybercrime bill. There are sections in there that you know what the sections are. The Hope Housing Project scandal, corruption. Oh my Lord. Listen, land tax. They claim that the deadline for payment is March 31st. What we're telling the government is that we're not paying no more land tax. We're finished. We want a removal of the land tax. We want you to remove the land tax. We are taxed out. We are taxed out. And furthermore, you're still figuring it out. You don't know what you're doing. Brad doesn't know what they're doing, or they probably know and just being terrible to some people. We want the removal of the land tax. I know you all watch, people from the government watch. This is what we're saying. We want an external investigation and audit of BRA. That's what we want, of the Barbados Revenue Authority. There needs to be an external investigation and audit. We want to know what are the adverse effects of that thing that you put in our arms. Where there's so many people who are saying that they're sick from it. We don't hear anything from the government about it. What about the money and the compensation that was promised to the people who got sick or died from that thing they put in the arm? Where is that, Madam PM? We want a better healthcare system. We're not animals. Why should we have to go to the hospital and wait for 5 days and 4 days? When you go to the hospital, no, you don't, if you're coming home alive or dead. And then put on top of that, our Prime Minister is announcing that CARICOM at the end of the month that they are going to, have this free, citizens from other regions can just come in and stay as long as they want to stay. We want better working conditions for teachers and students. That's what we're marching for. Too many sick schools, sick buildings. Teachers are sick, making the children sick. We want the double taxation on pension removed. Right? I mean, we have a message for Flo. It's not just the government. But we're coming out very, very serious. We have a message for Flo. We're not paying no late fee, no $35 late fee. What do you take us for? Huh? All of these taxes. Where do you think we're going to get money from? We are late in paying our bills because we don't have any money. But we're trying to pay the bills. But you're discouraging us and telling us that you're going to charge $35. You know how much grocery $35 can buy? So it is a very serious thing for us. March 23rd is a very, very serious thing for us. Yes, guys. March 23rd, very, very serious thing for us, and I'm inviting everybody come out. The only thing that they're going to respect is numbers. That's the only thing that is respected is numbers. So you need to come out, okay? Now, tonight, guys, we have a treat for you because Miss Rose Corbin is here. Rose Corbin, last time, she did a fantastic job of giving us, the talking about education and looking at the African origins, and she went all the way back and gave us a historical perspective on education in this country. It was so interesting. People were calling me days after about it. And Miss Corbin is here with us this evening, and we want to welcome her to the Marcia Week Show. Welcome, Miss Corbin. Mrs. Corbin. Yes, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Marcy, and thank you for having me again. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, most definitely. You're like me. When I started out, I had this big opening, and I realized I was muted. Yeah, but it's so great to have you this evening, and really looking forward to to your presentation. The last time you were here, I was getting calls 2 3 days after. People are like, "Oh my goodness, that was so amazing!" And I know you've created your PowerPoint, and you are. We're going to get that set up for you in a moment, but just go ahead and be free to start to share with us what's on your mind.
Yes, please. I have, again, good evening. I have facetiously captioned this session as MIA. You folks back there, you can write it down. MIA dash MOE. And that MIA stands for Missing in Action, Ministry of Education, Minister of Education. And so you write it down, MIA dash MOE. Missing in action, you can say whatever you mean, take those letters MIA to mean, but in this context, it is missing in action dash hyphen ministry, MOE, Ministry of Education, Minister of Education. And I want to, again, this is schools in session, although the Minister of Education may not be in session. Schools in session. So what I want you to do too is to make notes, and you can post them on the screen so that you too can participate and collaborate with us. This is what they're calling collaborative learning. So we are learning together. You are inputting on making contributions to my own observations. You can put them on the screen and imagine that there was the Minister of Education in the well. That person has been missing from the well, like the some other critical ministries, like the Ministry of Housing and Lands, the Ministry of Transportation and Work, the Ministry of Finance. These critical ministries, as the leader of the opposition, Honorable um, Ralph Thorne, noted that these ministries have been missing, and from the debate, from being in the well, from being accountable, from having the opportunity to answer and to respond to the people and to hear what's happening in their ministries. And education was noticeably missing, and has been silent for quite a while. So let's get started. And I have someone visited me just before the show, and here that I'll be presented this evening, cautioned and said, uh, don't let them drop a lawsuit on you too. And there's just fear that, anyone who speaks out in this capacity on this show or elsewhere, um, who may have something opposing or quite different or question what's going on, that we are liable to be sued. This is the climate in which we are living, but we shall not be silenced as long as we know that we are prepared and we're factual. And that is where I am premising my session. So let us look at the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training vocational training. And I got this straight from the document that was prepared with the combined estimate. This came from Parliament. And under the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, they're given 5 strategic goals. Let's go through them quickly. Next slide, please. And basically, I agree with the strategic goals. Strategic goal 1, to enhance overall student learning and achievement outcomes across the national educational system. Cannot find fault with that. Don't intend to find fault unnecessarily. I am here just to raise questions, bring critical analysis, bring discussion, bring some suggestions, and not to be critical or to criticize for the sake of doing so. So that strategic goal, livable. Second goal, please. Second strategic goal, to strengthen the overall standards and practices for improving teachers' quality of instruction, professional development, as well as for, may I see the screen? MIA-MOE is blocking me. Could you reduce it a little bit for us? Marcia? Yes, I can read it. Professional development, as well as for enhancing overall school leadership. Uh, Anything to enhance teachers' quality of instruction, professional development, and leadership. It's a good strategic goal. The third one, please. To enhance the overall infrastructure, physical infrastructure, and the technological, digital, and innovative profile of the educational system. Indeed, we need to have enhanced, improved, better physical infrastructure. And we are here also with technological, digital, and innovative profile of the education system. I have no fault with that. Strategic goal 4, to strengthen the institutional profile, operational, functioning, and performance of the ministry. I put some question marks there. I would need some explanation, further explanation of that one. That is a little bit what we call hairy-fairy. Let's move on that strategic goal 4. And strategic goal 5, to strengthen and enhance the regulatory framework and environment governing the wider educational sector. And I believe that has to do with the legislation and all the legal frameworks that regulate education and governance of education. So basically, the strategic goals are there. These are the ones cited in the document on the estimates. Let's look at the next slide, please. Now, issues arising for discussion. And as you know, I tend to do my research, as we all do on the Marcia Week show. And I noted that these strategic goals seem to appear in a vacuum, separate from what appears in the handbook, Reimagining Education in Barbados, A Bright Future for Every Child. These 5 strategic goals that I have shared with you seem to be separate from that document, that handbook, that glossy handbook that cost quite a penny, um, from those. And what is given, actually, I don't see any strategic goals in this handbook. What I do see, could we look at the next slide? What I do see is any semblance of goals in the handbook may be the reference on page 25, which speaks to the expected outcomes from the curricula, as well as page 2 under the question, why must we do this? So here we have a set of strategic goals for the ministry, and at a critical time in the operation of that same ministry, I am not seeing a merger or a reflection of those goals for reform and the transformation of the educational system. So if the minister were in the well, MIA-MOE, if she were in the well, I would have answered that question. Where is is there a gap between the strategic goals of the ministry and those for the reform, the intended reimagining of education? They are saying reimagine, recommit, reinvest. We need to see where the two come together. So that is my question. I would have asked, how is there a gap between the overall strategic goals of the Ministry of Education and the goals of this reimagining education in Barbados? Next slide. So that's one question to the well. And I would suggest that maybe the Ministry of Education should, and they may be doing it later, provide a rationale for these goals with specific objectives, activities, as well as indicators for measuring attainment of these goals. The goals sound sweet and sexy. I have no problem with the ones on enhancing the delivery of education, leadership and management of the schools, and leadership in the schools, and provision of opportunities within clean and healthy plants and environment for the children of this nation. Let's look at the next slide. So Marcia, that's one question I would have about the strategic goals and the marrying of those goals with the goals for this reimagining, this transformation of the system. My next question to the well would be on the school's digital technologies program. The budget allocates 11.9 million Barbados dollars. And in another setting, The Minister of Education said that this is more for upgrading and retrofitting school plans. She was amazed of malfunctioning, electrical wiring, etc. My question is this separate or part of the budget set aside for the intended educational transformation? We have $11.9 million. Is this being taken out of the budget that we're still waiting for the proposed education transformation? And next slide, please. I follow on by saying that they had proposed in this same booklet the digital book scheme at primary school level. And I remember EduTech 2000 can't talk about schools' digital technologies program without referring to the flopped EduTech 2000 with a budget of US $175 million, and which was presented in the budget proposals of 1998 and 1999 by the late PM Owen Arthur. And that was designed to restructure the education system for the 21st century. And here we are. Do we have any measurable outcomes for that? Has it been sustainable? I keep asking that. Therefore, I am wondering if this school's digital technologies program will be part also of that wider digital book scheme at the primary school level. These are questions that I would have asked if I were given the opportunity to speak to those in the well, led by the Minister of Education and the Chief Education Officer. Let's look at the next slide quickly, Marcia. I would suggest to those in the well that focus should be more on getting the digital devices into the hands of the children at this time. Look what we were able to mobilize, Marcia, Wednesday night to now. We were able to mobilize. Hold it up, Marcia. And we are hearing is it $11.9 million allocated to the school's digital technologies program. My thing is get devices in the hands of the children and don't let them have to go out begging. And we know that many schools are closed suddenly without notice. We're hearing children will have to go online and be taught online, and many of them do not have the devices. Get devices in their hands with that 11.9 million. Do I have an eye over there from my students in the classroom? Give me an eye, Marcia.
I.
Good.
And let's hear the I from those in the comments. Go ahead, please. Let me not disturb
Thank you. Next slide. I'm moving as quickly as I can. Now we have a unit called the Change Management Unit, and $1.6 million have been allocated to this Change Management Unit. And my question to the well, the absentee persons from the well, what will this Change Management Unit do? Is it part of the Education Reform Transformational Unit, or will it replace it and make the work of Dr. Ida Mae Denny, who has put substantial amount of thought and effort already into the reform unit, transformational unit? Is it part of that unit? Will it replace it? What is its mandate? I got some information that it is just set up. There is no mandate. There is no There are no terms of reference. There nothing to say what this unit is about and what are its functions, what are its tasks or terms of reference. And I'm asking, is this $1.6 million part of the education reform transformational purse? Is it coming out of that budget that we are waiting for education reform? Quickly, Marcia, the next slide. Um, they give us a roadmap for reimagining in this booklet, reimagining education in Barbados, a bright future for every child. And I have only picked out what they said would have been done by January 2024. Cabinet approval of education transformation policy. How far are they on this? This is March, but look, we don't have anyone accounting for the Ministry of Education. If you could not account for the money spent, I am sure someone with a degree of sensitivity would be brave enough and courageous enough to face the music and to answer questions on education. Education has not been functioning well for the last how many years, particularly the last financial year. And my question here is, for 2024, what has gone between 2023 when you did the big fancy launch and we had the town hall meetings? How far are they on this proposed roadmap? What about January 2024 cabinet approval of education transformation policy? They said by February 2024, the report on the Ministry of Education, Technology and vocational training audit. And I want also to know, somebody said that the roadmap taking you off the cliff like Hackleton. Please let me get focus here. You all make me smile, but then again, MIA-MOE. And where's the budget for this? Where is the money coming from? Still unanswered question. Still, I refer to I know many of you would have heard the clipping, you would have heard me at education reform town hall meetings asking about the budget. And then to hear there is no budget, you're spending, reimagining education of Barbados, a bright future for every child, and you ain't got a budget. Let us move on to the next one. These are the questions, Marcia, and I seek as well, and my wider audience, and those who are eavesdropping. Um, these are the questions I would have asked given the opportunity to speak with those persons in the well. Now I'm looking at outstanding matters from the BLP 2018 manifesto, building the best Barbados together, our urgent agenda, mission, critical policies and action. And I extrapolated, and I have come back to this many times in this forum, the one on violence in school. And their plan of action, immediate plan of action, was an immediate plan of action to end the current epidemic of violence in school. This is 2018, and we read in the press recently, yesterday, that the Minister of Education is called the Ministry of Education, and the Chief Education Officer is calling a meeting of the stakeholders. Stakeholders have met time and time again in this forum, on the various calling shows, in the newspapers. Stakeholders have been making um, calls for and suggestions for ending violence in school. But I bow and tip my cap to the leader of opposition who put things in perspective, um, to help us to see even clearer why we are on this downward trend, that we're collapsing and popping down. And now, after 6 years after they had put it in a manifesto, they are now calling a stakeholders meeting to address violence in school. And that was supposed to be an immediate plan of action. And I'll read it: to end the current epidemic of violence in school, address violence and bullying among school children by placing more guidance counselors and social workers, and starting anger management and conflict resolution classes. I'm not saying that these things are not happening in school, but where is the plan of action? Meeting after meeting with stakeholders. When are we going to see action? Will there be, God forbid, and I don't want it, I pray against it daily, God forbid that we see increases in the kind of violence that lead to death, to lead to greater maiming of and loss of limb, and somebody's young boy child, somebody's young girl child, niece, nephew, godchild, grandchild be sent off to dogs because of lack of proactive action that was promised in the BLP manifesto of 2018. That is one of the questions I would ask, and it is coming a day too late. Let's look at the next slide quickly, and I think this should wrap up. I've got about 2 more. From that BLP manifesto, they said one of the critical policies and action, our urgent agenda mission, critical policies and action under education, was to ensure they will ensure a reliable and timely school bus service. And we're still waiting for those timely school bus services. We pass on the road and we see children. There are times when I go from one point to another early in the morning, and I pass children at that bus stop, and on my return journey, they're still there. Ensure a reliable and timely school bus service, and from September 2018, placing safety officers on buses and at places where students and young people congregate in large number. Has that happened? I say no, because we're hearing all kinds of bullying behavior and fightings on the street and where our school children congregate. Marcia, the next one quickly. I'm conscious of my time. The next slide, please. Other outstanding matters, the sick buildings. What is being done? We want to have the findings on these reports that are done on the 6 school plans. What is being done to make up for time lost for instruction and learning when classes have to be dismissed or there's no attendance because of ongoing issues at the plants. What about the intended audit on schools that are deemed sick plants, and how will they be prioritized for attention? The minister, in another setting, give voice that they planned an audit. I think that it was at one of the parish meet, or the usual place that the public gets news. You either have to listen in at one of their parish meetings, or at a constituency meeting. They don't come to the public. And I didn't put it here. We have to learn through one of the PR consultants who will come out and give a brief statement to the public. This is what the taxpayers are giving year after year since 2018 to the Ministry of Education, and this is what we get. I must laud the establishment of the National Task Force on Literacy. I wish them well, and I may have an opportunity through this forum to share on that, Marcia. But we are here. There will be an audit now. While the what's it Caswell, while the grass is growing, the ox is starving, or whatever it is.
When the grass is growing, the horse is starving.
Yes. So while we wait for that audit, we wait for more consultancies to come in and do the audit on the schools. And while we wait on the Ministry of Education to prioritize the schools, our teachers, our students, our workers, the ancillary staff will be getting sick, becoming sicker, and we don't want worse. And my last question or observation is that I would have liked the opportunity to hear from the recently appointed Minister of State, the Honorable Sandra Husbands, who has responsibility for technical and vocational institutions. I would have liked to hear her intentions. I would have liked to hear the way forward. I would have liked to hear if more spaces other than university, a big chunk of the education budget and the overall budget is going to the University of the West Indies. But I would like to hear that, yes, we want within every household someone with a degree. But again, I question the quality of the degree, the purpose of the degree, the usefulness of the degree. What I see at this time is that we need more a skilled person in every household, a skilled person in every household, an artisan, someone who's interested in education, a skilled person. I listen to Will the Minister Legal Affairs, Home Affairs, and I was riled when he took delight in saying that Barbadians are not interested in working the land. And you remember, as well, that bill that they were passing on movement of labor and the labor force. And he took delight in saying that we need agricultural persons, persons in agriculture, because Barbadians don't want to, goodness gracious me, invest in it, invest. Show, motivate people to don't get into the House of Assembly just because you want a certain bill to be passed, and find an educational discussion to say that we don't have persons who are interested in being in the hot sun. We want a skilled person in every household. We want someone, an artisan in every household. We want that artisan and that skilled person to become an entrepreneur, self-employed, getting opportunities in the economy to create wealth for themselves and to help grow the economy. These
Yeah.
are my concerns, Catswell and Marcia and my fellow colleagues, and to all those of you out there. You're my colleagues, and I'm sure you education is the pillar. And Marcia, I did a historical overview, and I realized that the BLP administration seemed to be weak on managing and handling education.
Yes, I
I have
totally
to
agree.
note here, and I hope you will allow me some time to come back to do
Of
a
course,
historical overview to know. And it seems as though there seems to be something wrong. They seem not to be able to manage education, but
okay.
everything is mash up and buy back, mash up
Yes,
and buy back, fix things that just and as I told you, that veteran in education, that retiree told me, a long-standing BLP person told me that he does not know why, particularly under this current administration, that they are interfering with education at the magnitude in the way that they're
that
doing.
they're doing it. Yeah.
And so I thank you, Marcia. I close
Yes.
here. But these are some of the things that I would have asked. Missing in action, Ministry of Education,
Education.
Minister of Education. And I wonder if they were scared that the leader of opposition would ask them these kind of questions and be instructive as he was when he spoke to the culture that exists amongst the youth right
Yes.
now. I ask our people to raise their voices about what and their concerns about education. It
Yes.
is popping down, if not popped down. Thank you,
It's yes.
everybody.
Wow.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Corbin, for this extensive research that you've done as usual. And you know what we're going to do with this presentation for sure is that we're going to separate it. We're going to edit it out and send it all about. And I'm going to try to find somebody who can get this to the Ministry of Education. I think that it is important, and we need to get this all about when we have our march on Saturday, next Saturday, the 23rd, March the 23rd, March the 23rd. When we have our march, that is something, this is an area that we're going to have to discuss on the march and to continue to educate. So, Mrs. Corbin, thank you so much for sharing with us. And as throughout the evening, if you can jump in at any other time, any of the other segments, we so appreciate it. Of course, we are, Mr. Franklin, as we're on education, I want to show the people.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to mute and listen to you all. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Let me just, Mr. Franklin, I have the laptop. This is the laptop, and this is the power of the people. Right here on the show, Mr. Franklin raised a concern. This was raised on Wednesday that there's a student at Lesterbon who does not have a device because Lesterbon has gone back to online classes because of the environmental issues that are plaguing the teachers and students at that institution. And so Mr. Franklin said, just in passing, there's a young man who's telling me he can't attend the classes online. He does not have a device. And what happened tonight was what happened on Wednesday is that I just made a call out, and before the night was ended, we were able to pick up near $1,400. And this, we're going to show you the receipt of this tonight. This was bought today at PriceSmart, as someone on here suggested, and that this child will have this laptop. And Mrs. Corbin, Mr. Franklin was talking about this 11.9 million that is allocated to school digital technologies program. And the big question is, will we have more of these children that are going to be without devices to do their schoolwork? A lot of the other things that they have, they can't even get on Google, I'm being told. So how are they going to access the Google Classroom on those inferior devices? So, Mr. Franklin, I know that little young man is going to be thrilled.
Yes, thank you so much, Marcia. And I want to thank all those who contributed to that device, because it will go a long way to helping this little man. He has not been able to go to school, so to speak, since the school was locked down because of those environmental issues. I hear you say that it's affecting the students and teachers. It is only affecting students and teachers. It's affecting the ancillary staff, and is affecting, apparently it's also affecting the people who access the school compound to exercise on evenings. You know, some people do the jogging around the pastor. They are no banned from going into the school compound, but they're still asking the ancillary staff to turn up. You know, they're still forcing them, and they're telling them that if they don't come, they will have their salary, their vacation docked, so they will treat those days when they're not there as vacation days. You know, they can't do that legally, but the board doesn't remember that it is a board, and it must conform to the Holidays with Pay Act, as opposed to the government departments who can do that. You see, the schools have a hybrid system. The teachers work for the government service, and the ancillary staff work for the board. So there are two different types of conditions of service, and two different regulatory agencies that conduct business for them. For instance, you can go to the Labor Department and have a matter go all the way to the tribunal for a school board. You cannot do that if it's the school as a teacher.
Mhm.
You know, so but they come in and they use public service conditions on these unfortunate people, some of whom do not know the difference. A lot of them are general workers, groundsmen, that kind of stuff, and they don't have the technical skills. And you have, especially in the case of Lester Vaughan, we have a bully as the chairman of the board. I've spoken to him several times. He's the fellow I told that he was flying past his nest. You know, his nest is so far back he can't find it, and he continues to push his weight around. He's a pretty big fellow, so he got a lot of weight, but he's not doing. I've written to the Ministry of Education, Permanent Secretary, complaining about the conditions under which these people are being employed, and the bullying that happens to them. And I've asked her to have a meeting to discuss these issues, because they get so fed up that all but five of them have joined Unity Workers Union.
Oh,
So
wow.
I don't have a question about recognition like we have with Bra, but I will deal with that later. What I
Yes.
want, so I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart. That I know this young man, he doesn't know that it is coming. So tomorrow when he gets it, I know he's going to be thrilled.
And Mr. Franklin, let me just let people know that this is the receipt is here. If you want a copy of it, we can send it to you, because we want complete transparency. This is your money. Some of it is not. I know there's somebody in St. Philip. We haven't picked it up yet, but we made sure that we put it in. So we're going to come to that sister there in St. Philip, and those that gave to as well. If you pledge, we need those pledges to come in, because we have it here, okay? And there are just a few persons out that we haven't received, not that many at all. That go to Mr. Franklin. I think everybody who is supposed to go to Unity Workers Union, you've already done so. We just have a few more to pick up, one or two probably. But this is Mr. Franklin. I love this because we push on the show. It's not about just talk. We showed a video with Mr. Thorne talking about the students, about our young people, and somebody's asking for it to be shown every night because it motivates people. And I'm so glad that we are not just on here criticizing, as people say, oh, they're just making a bunch of noise. But we are making a difference in people's lives. And I think that this is awesome. This is what Mrs. Corbin is asking about, these $11.9 million. Will children have devices? Will they have connectivity? Will they have Wi-Fi in their homes? Will it? How will it work? Right? So thanks again to everybody. Well, Mr. Franklin, there's a lot that is happening with Bra. Let me tell you. I once again want to just thank God for Sonia Brown, because she has started this ball rolling, Mr. Franklin, and people are sending in, all kinds of information about Bra and what they have been enduring at Bra. And that's one of the areas that we're going to march about on March the 23rd at 10 o'clock, when we meet at there at Kensington Oval, Massacre Park. This is an area where we're calling for that external investigation and audit of BRA. So, Mr. Franklin, take it away and tell us what are the latest developments of BRA.
Before we do that, though, I have to thank Rose for that presentation that she did, and I was there. I was here taking notes because I wanted to make some comments on it. Like for instance, she sidetracked into the minister speaking about immigration. People don't want to work in agriculture. Now, let me tell you something. I started to work in 1977 after I left school. My first pay pack at the cost of Massing was $350 a month. Oh Lord, I had so much money, it's not funny. But that was more money than my mother ever worked for in her pay packet. Okay? And she was an agricultural worker. I was working, my first pay pack was more than my mother had been working for, and my mother had been working all her life in agriculture. Lucky for us, my father and she had separate plots of land that they cultivated, and we had food and stuff, but we didn't have a lot of money to spend. And it continues that way. So that's why people don't want to get into agriculture, because the returns are for them, not for the people who plant. Because and even for the people who plant, if you want to sell to the supermarkets, they buy them at pittance and then sell them at a pound. So you don't want to. I don't tell the minister don't go there. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Marcy, please send me the link so I can send to people because they're asking me for it.
Okay.
And also, Rose spoke about the road map. But you see that road in that road map, that needs milling and paving, because something is wrong with that road. you know, then it needs to be milled and paved now, because that road ain't going. It wants fixing already, and the next anybody ain't start on it yet. Let me go down the line. Teachers taught during COVID, and some of them are still teaching now online. There is no requirement for a teacher to do so, but the teachers did so willingly in the interest of the children. Some of them had to go and learn how to do this thing, and learn how to teach online, because it is not something you can do automatically. I ain't hear nobody buying up pots for the teachers or anything like that, or clapping their hands when teachers pass or nothing, but teachers went above and beyond the call of duty, and they're still being treated like a little bit of slaves. And this government is making it harder for teachers to teach. That is why and one of the reasons why and to administer discipline in the school. Right now, there's no discipline in the schools because a teacher can't speak to the child. Call the child, go home and tell the parents. And Santa told them once, if the teachers hit them, call the police. Remember that? When she was Minister of Education. And the children taught teachers. It is very difficult for teachers to teach now because the children don't care. And then they have this what they call the grooming policy. I call it the rowdy policy, where the children go to school looking unkept as ever, and they bring everything down to the lowest common denominator. It is hard, very hard. Then they go and they choose their friends as principals, and they have some of the worst principals in the system right now. You remember beginning of the school year last year, they changed principals around and demoted some of them a few hours before the term was supposed to start.
Yes.
A few hours before the bell was rang, teachers found out in the morning that they were principals found out in the morning that they were transferred, and the transferred, and in some instances the deputy and the principal from one school. But you went through planning and all kind of stuff. This government does not understand what it is doing. You don't just take a principal and chuck them in the middle of the city. That happens in an emergency when somebody dies, but it doesn't happen. And if somebody dies, you would get the person who is deputy to act for them rather than bring two new faces into the school. So they're causing a lot of confusion. This government is hell bent on confusion. And then the administration of the secondary schools, where you have school boards, staff are constituted by a bunch of political yard fouls that don't have any training in education. Sometimes the only person on that board that has any training in education is the ministry's rep, because the chief education officer is entitled to send a person to represent him at the board, because he's entitled to be on every board, but he can't be, so he delegates some of his officers to different schools, and sometimes that is the only person. And depending on who the board chairman is, they don't pay them much money. Sometimes those people get fed up, and you have board chairman walking about the place believing that they are in charge and that they own the place, that somehow they are the executive chairman of the schools, and they come out just shouting orders and giving orders and want talk, and even want gives teachers instructions. They have no authority whatsoever to give a teacher instruction, but they do it. They call them to meetings. So the whole place is a mess. It's a lot of confusion, and compliments to the Barbados Labour Party administration. And it isn't only this one, there was previous administrations that caused all these problems. Right? But that was, I just wanted to comment on what Rose was talking about, her education thing. I don't know, want to go into what is happening at BRA.
Bra, as I was saying, we're getting a lot of comments about that and messages. And Kimar is here. He has to leave early, so we're gonna let you go ahead, Mr. Franklin, and then about 8:15 we break for Kimar. He has an early night, okay? And then
Yeah,
we come
okay.
back. Yes.
No problem. I will go quickly, because what's happening at BRA, the senior management at BRA have now discovered that they have crooks in their midst. So rather than deal with them, they are finding excuses. People who have done a lot of wrongdoing, and they're not trying to make excuses. Like, for instance, the excuse that you will hear coming for the lady who's in charge of enforcement is that her house is in a flood prone area, so that is why the value is down. But what they are not, that doesn't make sense, because the other houses next to her would be in flood prone area too, but they didn't come down. So they think all of us are stupid, and they're walking about the place giving these answers, trying to find their way. Now they get caught bits on their brown, and they call them agricultural land. If you look at the land tax orders, you will not see anything in those orders that says agricultural land. It has a house. You got a house. If you got land and they have an improved value, maybe if you got a house on it or something like that, then you pay a different a particular rate. If it is vacant land with no structure,
Yes.
you pay the highest rate of tax. So that is where agriculture will come, because the agricultural thing doesn't have a house on it, don't have a house or have land. Now, if for some reason you have a house, you charge the rate at the lower rate when you have a residence on the property. It does not speak to agricultural land. What the thing that speaks to agricultural land is if you are using the property for agriculture and you are paid the highest rate, and you get a certificate from the Ministry of Agriculture saying that you are a farmer, you get the rebate. That is all. That's all they deal with. So you can't tell me that land tax class business.
Okay, okay, you dropped out there a little bit. You dropped out. Okay, go ahead. You
Right?
dropped out.
I said don't listen to anybody. that land tax department telling you, or that they're classified as agricultural land, or that they use town planning things for to determine it's agricultural land. Two different things altogether.
Okay.
They are not empowered, or
Uh-huh.
they don't have any right by law to use any town planning designations for agricultural land to tax people. You
Oh, so
tax
they are
people.
not understanding it. Can you go
The
it over
tax,
one more time, Mr. Franklin? Can
right?
you break
Okay,
that
look.
down one more time? Thank you.
You tax people based on the value of the land. If it is um, improved land, if it has improved value,
Mhm.
you get a higher, you get a lower rate because it doesn't mean you got a house or something on it. If it is unimproved land, and usually that's agricultural land because they got nothing on the land, so you get charged at the highest rate. The reason for that is that they want to force people to go into agriculture, don't mind Abrams. And so if you have vacant land with no structure on it, you pay you pay the highest rate of tax. But then if you farm that land, and the Ministry of Agriculture can certify to land tax that you are using that land for farming, you get the rebate. So that will bring your rate down
Yeah,
significantly.
makes sense.
All
Yeah.
right. The problem here is that so you have different rates for depending on the value of the improvements. All right. So when you see them going against people and talk about this agricultural land, ask them on what basis. Where is the law that says so? Because there's nothing in the land tax order signed by the minister responsible for finance that specifies any charge for agricultural land. If you do agriculture on your land, but you got a house on it, you charge on the improved value of the land, which would be land and house, and you'd pay the lower rate because it is a dwelling. Now, if you plant food on it, and let's say you are also a farmer, so you can, even though it has a house on it, you can still get the Ministry of Agriculture to determine that, well, the house is secondary, you're already a farmer, and they will give you the certificate for the rebate. But for town planning to, not town planning, for land tax, to
Right.
determine that, oh, this is agricultural land, not their business, has nothing to do with them. They value the land, and that's it. And then they charge you taxes based on the value, and if it has an improved value, you charge on that. And if it has an improved value and it has a house on it, you pay the lower rate. If it doesn't have a house on it or it doesn't have a structure on it, you pay the higher rate because and they do that for people even who buy land in developments and just leave it in bush. If you put a
Mm-hmm.
house, the rate comes down.
Mm.
So somebody in there was lying to you, and because the explanation sounds good, you went with it, but it is not true. What they need to do is to suspend those people who I identified on this show a couple of nights back. Suspend them because there's enough evidence out there to at least suggest wrongdoing, and then investigate them. If there's no wrongdoing, they go back to work. If there's wrongdoing, you bring charges against them and get the referral in public service, because it 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 is a scandal. It is a national scandal. You cannot have two houses. You see, when they're valuing the lands, they got something they call an enclosure. So you value the things in that enclosure. So you cannot take out one in the enclosure and bring it down and say this is in a flood prone area. Because all of them in that enclosure would be in the flood prone area. So
Yeah.
don't listen to that nonsense. It is an excuse. It is not the truth. And they're hoping because you have not read the Land Tax Act and you have not read the order signed by the minister that you would rely on them. But you do not expect a person who is accused of an offense to be on the jury. And that is what is happening here. They are on the jury.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Franklin, this is an area that we are calling for an external investigation audit of the of BRA, the Barbados Revenue Authority. And, many are saying they are done with the land tax. They're paying other taxes. There's a lot of taxes that they're paying, and they want, they want to be relieved of the land tax. We're going to discuss that a little further as we continue the night. But Mr. Stewart is here,
Yeah,
and
let me go to Kimar, and
we will come back.
I could always come back.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so Kimar, good night. Good night. You would have heard all of that on Brad. That was piece of education there for me, for sure. How in terms of the land tax and what is improved land and unimproved land. Every night I learned something brand new on here. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. And so Kimar, you are ready now for us. I know you have a lot to share with us on this hope or hopeless project. So over to you, Kimar.
Yes, good night to you, Marcia. Good night, Caswell. Good night to Rose. And good night to all of the members of the loyal opposition. I am very, very, very happy to be here on a Friday evening, yet again with you. Um, as you were saying something, Caswell, your
No, no,
mic.
no, sorry, Marcia. Sorry, Kimar. Marcia, I want the link to share because people are calling for it.
Oh,
So
I
send it to
know.
me,
I was
please.
charging my phone in order to say yes. I forgot. I will do that now. Thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
thanks. Sorry
Kimar.
about that. Sorry, Kimar. Sorry for breaking your strike.
Yeah, no problem. Um, yes, so as Marcia introduced, I am back here again to speak about the whole project. Day by day, we sit by, and the more information we get on this project, we get to understand exactly the level of corruption and the level of nasty and nefarious deeds that happen within the Ministry of Housing. So the information that I'm about to reveal this evening, if this information gets into the hands of the director of public prosecution, somebody could be charged for the misappropriations of taxpayers' money in this country, because this whole project is indeed a scandal, and the newspapers are not carrying this scandal. And somebody needs to answer for this whole project, because the information that we have is so damning, right? I want to show you guys the whole project in its introduction, just to see the Prime Minister of this country convincing Barbadians that this project was indeed the best thing for us. Had a big launch at Vesper Gardens. They put up videos on YouTube and everything. So I want you guys to see exactly what we have here, because this video that I'm going to show you is very important to the information I have to review, because the chairman, or the former chairman, I should say, of the whole project, who is Mr. Hoyes, that particular chairman, we are going to list a long set of information here, and you, the loyal opposition, will determine after we finish if further action should be taken. Right. So I want you to see the Prime Minister speaking, and again, this is quoted speech coming from her and coming from the chairman. So first, we see here the, and tell me if you can see my screen. Yes, you can see my screen. You can see here the CEO of HOPE, right? This is the introduction of HOPE, of the HOPE project. So this launch occurred at Vesper Gardens. You see a big soiree happening here, members from the credit union. You saw the Prime Minister earlier. You see all these big fancy shots and everything. A whole big public relations exercise surrounding the height of HOPE. Right? So I'm hoping that you're seeing what transpired. Right? This person is this, or was, the chief executive officer of Hope, right? And she's speaking to the crowd, introducing herself, whatever, right? And I'm going to bring you forward so that you can hear some of the words of the chairman.
To everybody. Prime Minister, thank you for coming. And we are going to open the two. Prime Minister has agreed to open the two show units for us today, two-bedroom units. And next month, we'll open a three-bedroom show unit. And there's a number of persons here who have qualified for loans. And we've invited them to come and take a sneak peek. From here on out, every Saturday, we will have show units open to the public. As Tamara says, this is approximately 155 units we want to build here. Although we are contemplating, we're actually in the design phase now of bringing in some townhouses because those will add to and allow us to increase the density of the area, and they also meet a different, it expands the offering. Some people like the idea of a townhouse, slightly bigger, with living, dining downstairs and bedrooms upstairs. When we finish this, not when we finish, we've already started clearing land at Pool in St. John, where we have a proposal for 200.
I need you to listen to this part very carefully when he speaks about the land at Pool in St. John. I need you to listen to this part very carefully.
101 residences. That infrastructure work has started 2 weeks ago. We should start building in St. John at the junction between Four Roads and the St. John Woods at the edge of Pool Plantation, where it borders onto the road. And we're going to build 201 residences there. Those residences will start in September this year after the road works are put in. We also hope to be able to start Colleton in St. Lucie at about 85 residences. That infrastructure work we hope will start in the near future, and then.
Right. So I hope you saw and you heard for yourself that clip when he was speaking about the lands at Pool in St. John. Right. What's interesting about that gentleman's statement, Marcel, is that he was also the chairman at Resolution Life, or what they call CLICO, right? He was the chairman, and it was his decision that he took to transfer the lands at Pool in St. John to Hope, seemingly under questionable circumstances, right? So he was simultaneously the chairman at Hope, while being the chairman at Resolution Life. At Resolution Life were the persons who own the land, CLICO, right? But as you know, it was in receivership and whatever, and he was the chairman, right? So he would have transferred the lands, or seemingly transferred the lands, over to Hope. But then, if you could recall, the chairman of Hope came out and said that the government never had the title deeds, right? So for the action that he took, he was removed, and he was fired from the board, Marcia, as he was fired, right? Because the actions that he took as the chairman of Hope, where he channeled money to a specific developer and using his position as the chairman of Hope, right? So we're going to tread cautious here, because we don't want any letters coming. But they say, Marcia, pictures speak 1,000 words. So once the audience and the loyal opposition sees the pictures, then you could understand essentially what I am speaking about, where I said that lands were channeled to a specific developer in Barbados without a tender, right? So we can see persons here speaking at the launch of Hope Premium in Christchurch, right? You can see, the loyal opposition can see. We can understand. We don't have to name names, but the facts are there, right? And for his actions in terms of channeling monies, government monies that was handed over to Hope, the minister came out and said that a tender was issued for the project when he knew full well there was no tender for this Hope project, right? And the chairman was terminated. He was fired from Hope, right? And if you remember, we had a senator from the Barbados Labour Party. He was the deputy chairman at Hope as well, right? So just going to scroll leisurely by that you can see the whole entire charade that was put on to trick the people of Barbados into believing that there were going to be homes built when they knew full well that they were going to be scammed because taxpayers' money has been spent and the people have not moved in the houses. What they said, Marcia, pictures tell 1,000 words. This is the same man that was cursed all over Barbados by the Prime Minister. And saying that he was getting too much work and he was getting too much contracts and everything. But the chairman at the Hope Project, she needs to come and tell us exactly why he was fired. Right? They need to tell us why the CEO was fired. Right? Because we have this cross-border relationship happening, Marcia, as it relates to Clico Rise Life and as it relates to the Hope Project. You had persons leaving directly from Clico Rise Life and joining the board of Hope. Joining the board of Hope, Marcia. And I want to tread carefully here because we don't want to trespass. But some information needs to be shared. Some factual information needs to be shared. The initial board of Hope, Marcia, had 6 directors, right? The chairman, the same guy that we saw in the clip, he then extended that board to include 2 additional people, right? 2 additional people. And one of those persons ended up being the chairman much later, whose name was Mr. Lane, right? He then last 6 months. He was appointed in July 2023, as I said on the show before, and he then last 6 months before he was out. And a new chairman being announced, which is the same guy that came out and said that the government did not have the title deeds. Right? Colin Shafee was the name. He came out and said that this is the guy that worked at Four Seasons, along with Mr. Prasad as well. All of these persons worked at Four Seasons. Right? So the chairman was then removed, and another person has now become the chairman of Hope. Right? So we have a new chairman at Hope, and we saw no announcements again, not published in the Gazette again, not published in Parliament, not published anywhere. And we have a new chairman, and the information and the files reaching us are suggesting, Marcia, that the CEO of Hope, his salary was increased by $4,000 extra, and it is being alleged that he does not have a work permit to be employed in Barbados.
Wow.
And
That's the allegation, that he doesn't have a work permit.
yes, it is the allegation that the new CEO of Hope does not have a work permit to work in Barbados. And what's even more dangerous is that the new CEO of Hope, taxpayers' money is sent directly to his account in England.
Another Englishman.
Yes. Hired through the dark of night. Hired through the dark of night. And taxpayers' money is sent directly to England. And it is being said that this man doesn't even have a work permit to work in Barbados.
My God, if that is true, that's something that needs investigation. If that is true, Kimar, that is serious.
Well, Marcia, this thing smelled like that from almost its scratch. So the time they said they were giving away free land and you can get and you can get returns on investment from putting PV systems on your house, right? And then you saw the minister coming out spreading, he was giving false news, false indications, telling lies, whatever he was doing, when he denied the fact that the money was issued without a tender to the specific developer, right? That should have raised alarms in Barbados. But again, we don't have accurate, or we don't have the transparency. They blocked housing from coming into the wells. Right? They blocked the opposition leader from asking questions on this project, and we can see why. Right? So I would like an investigation done by the Auditor General and additional information handed to the Director of Public Prosecutions to be able to do an investigation. And I would ask the opposition leader to allow the Public Accounts Committee to investigate this housing issue. Because how just last month you issued a statement from a CEO who then came out and said that the government doesn't own title deeds, and he was fired between that space of time and now, and a new CEO appointed.
Hold a minute. It just hitting me. I hate to disturb you, but I'm learning as I make notes, right? So you're telling me that the CEO, all along you're talking, it didn't hit me, The CEO that came out and told us that they did not have the title deeds. I remember that was just the other day. And he's fired. He's gone.
He's gone.
No, man.
Fired.
You're sure? Wow. I didn't realize that's what you're actually saying,
Yes, I'm saying he's gone and a new person has been
No.
appointed.
Wow.
A new person has been appointed, and this person, the allegation is that this new person, he does not have a work permit. His salary was increased by an additional $4,000. Right? His salary was increased by $4,000, and he does not have a work permit. And the money, taxpayers' money, is being paid to him from here directly to England, into an account in England, to a bank account in England. Right? So you see the level of corruption that's happening with this whole project in Barbados. So we need answers from the Minister of Housing and the Ministry of Housing to clear the air on these allegations surrounding this whole scandal. Because this project was intended to be worth $250 million. Right? But developers can be walking away with fat pockets, no tender, no way to account for any of the money, no houses. So you can see how taxpayers' money was wasted. Right? Taxpayers' money was wasted and the people were fleeced. right? So somebody needs to come and speak up about this whole project because this information is damning, right? The Minister of Housing, Mr. Dugade, Dwight Sunderland, the Prime Minister, somebody needs to come and say something to us, Marcy, because this do not look good, right?
Yeah, something is wrong, and there's nothing in asking questions. These are allegations, and we are asking questions from the Prime Minister. This is taxpayers' money, and so what we're doing, we're asking questions of the Prime Minister, the different CEOs. You can't keep up at this point. I mean, up to was it last week? About three of them just up and resign. When you see something like that happening, Kimar, something is wrong. Continue. Go ahead, please.
Yes, the internal auditor, the project manager, and I think a finance officer, they all resigned. So those are three persons who had power to sign financial deals, along with the CEO who was fired. So four financial officers left the company under questionable circumstances in such a quick space of time. The CEO and the three officers that we spoke about. Right.
This is reminding me of that scam there with the injection scam. This is the whole thing just seemed like a scam, and a lot of the things that's done in this government seem very scamish. That's the truth. It seemed there's a lot of these things. I mean, and the fact that it was not discussed in the estimates, housing was not there. What is the thing that people stupid, Kimar?
Well, they are taking advantage of the fact that the people may not be, but they are paying attention. But why I'm disappointed because this project was mentioned all over the world on the in the New York Times and some other international blogs as being a savior for Barbadians. And I too, as a person who has interest in real estate, I would be happy to know that Barbadians had access to the low income housing project. Right? I would have been happy. But to know that you have hope, you have Res Life, and you have Parliament in the same building, and you gone ahead and built on the land knowing that you did not have the title deeds, you enter into an arrangement to buy the stock off of the developer under and use your emergency powers to say, just give him and took up $60 million out to the central bank's housing credit fund to do it. And we on the show we were scratching our heads asking, how come the central bank, if you remember that time, how come the central bank was invested? And we were questioning what this thing was housing credit fund, but it became clear based off the information that we got that they used $60 million out to the central bank housing credit fund to put into this project. 60 million gone, not a house people are living in, right? But they put on an entire charade to come and trick the people of this country, knowing what was happening in the background. So they who were in control over the Clico lands, who were on the board, the chairman, him along with about 3 or 4 others who were also on the board of Clico, and they all transitioned from Clico straight over to Hope, and they were appointed by a minister. They didn't just jump in there, right? And Mr. Dugade was the minister over the project when it was rolled out, and there are the videos to prove it. It is the absolute fact that Mr. Dugade had responsibility for the first rolling out of the project, meaning that it was his decision to appoint these persons, knowing full well what this entire thing was all about. So Mr. Dugade, as the Minister of Housing, he needs to face the music as it relates to appointing all these persons based off the information we got and allegedly are proven to be absolute corrupt. And Mr. Sunderland, he needs to answer for the fact no, that three of those financial officers resigned. The CEO was fired. I know that they allegedly have a new CEO in the Ministry of Housing. Our taxpayers' money is sent to England to pay him $4,000 more than what if Glasgow was working for, and he may not even have a work permit. Right? So we need some information on that. I don't suspect that. Well, I say I would have some hope that
No pun intended.
something happens with this people. And that chairman, the chairman who they allegedly said is the boyfriend or spouse of a minister of government in this country. Right? He is the boyfriend or the spouse of a minister of government in this country. And he was allowed to do things like that. He was allowed to misuse his position as the chairman of CLICO, simultaneously the chairman of Hope, to be signing off on things that he had no power to sign off on.
I am not as cautious as you, Kimar. He was the partner of Santia Bradshaw, the deputy prime minister. You know, I don't know if he still is. You know, these things happen, but at the time when this was going on, he and Santia were involved in a relationship, and that alone makes it look bad because he getting these kind of sweetheart deals with the number two person in government. Something wrong. You gotta let people know these things because you can't say a minister because they got a lot of ministers in there. They got too many, but it was the deputy prime minister. Sorry for going to, but I didn't want people not to know who you're talking about because I still waiting for that thing up my tail, you know.
So you're saying that the deputy prime minister's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend or whatever was allowed, Caswell, to take, although he was chairman of the board, he was allowed to take another position called an executive project director, where he was paid a salary of $20,000 a month. And then he was allowed to be paid, we call it retroactively, where he would have been back paid all of the time that he was chairman. He was allowed to do that as the spouse or the boyfriend of this is pure corruption.
At least he wasn't getting 7,005.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh, this is something. I mean, these are serious allegations, and I'm hoping that there are people from the government who are watching this podcast this evening, and can answer some of these questions. We know you listen, and these are questions that we're asking, and we have a right to ask these questions because it's taxpayers' money. And a lot of these things we don't know. These are allegations, and we're asking you answer these questions, please. And we're calling, Kima, we're calling on people to get out there on March 23rd. On March 23rd, we are going to be asking questions about this whole project. We're not stupid. If you won't ask the questions, if we can't get the questions answered in Parliament, you go answer us on the street. Because you decided that you're not going to do the housing, the Ministry of Housing is not going to be part of the estimates. You decided that. Because with the hope that these questions will not come up, the leader of the opposition cannot ask these questions. Well, the people are going to ask the questions on the streets of Barbados, March 23rd. Meet us at 10 o'clock, right there at Kensington Oval.
Tell
I
me
just have to
something.
say that.
Tell me
Go
something,
ahead.
Kimar. Wasn't Phillips one of the ministers in housing?
Phillips was the minister in the ministry, I believe. I can't remember. I forgot. I got.
I think so, and coincidentally, he is the fellow that stopped Ralph from asking about housing because he's chairman of committees.
Mm.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave.
Well, very, very interesting. But these things need to be said because, as you rightfully said, they're trying to block the opposition leader from asking these probing questions. But we, the people, will ask on these forums, right? So that is why they will want to bring the cybercrime bill to shut us down, right? Because if we had read this information and they pass that bill, I'll be facing 7 years in jail or $70,000 or both, right? But they need to be exposed. And this housing scam, this is worse than Harvard housing, you know. This is worse, right? And the problem that I have is that at the time when you promising people 10,000 houses, you even heard the Dwight Sunderland in the parliament reinforcing the fact that he's going to build 10,000 houses and they're going to have a housing revolution in Barbados, knowing full well that the whole project cannot go anywhere because it has to be investigated. And pure corruption has happened with that project and it cannot go anywhere. So after he promised the public that he would have addressed the whole project, no later we are wiser, right? And if he cannot come and give the public factual information like what we gave here, and saying to the public straight that the chairman of the project, well, he was also the chairman of CLICO, illegally transferred those lands, but we didn't get any deeds, but allow people to go and build on Hope and transferring money to a developer at the same time. I was fired for it. We need answers, Marcia.
Yeah. I need a lot of answers. These allegations need to be answered. And I keep saying it, Mr. Franklin, we have a right to ask the questions on this show and on any show. And it's a shame that the newspapers, that they're not carrying it. And I know that once it involves certain people, that what happens a lot of times is that they pretend like it doesn't exist. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. So we are the ones that will take the chance and put it out there because of the sake of the Barbadian people. Where we will put it out there, but they're not the others aren't doing it, Mr. Franklin. They're not doing it.
You see, they're afraid. They're afraid, and those who aren't afraid are in the government's pockets, or they're in the government's pocket or something. So one of the other things you must remember is that government does a lot of advertising in the newspapers. And the newspapers don't really make money by selling newspapers, you know. They make money by the advertising. And if government pulls the advertising from them, so they are between a rock and a hard place because the newspaper is still a business. Still got to make money, still got to pay staff, still got to pay like bill, water bill, and all kind of stuff. So when it isn't that, because I remember some years ago when they first disclosed that Quartz, the furniture store downtown, had owed $35 million in principal on VAT that they collected. And somebody somehow did the truck pass it, drop off of me and went to my house. And I had their full VAT account. I gave it to the nation. And the nation couldn't dare print it because courts told them if you print it, we to do $1 million advertising, we ain't getting none. So it never came up. It is only then after Wade Gibbons lost his job at the nation that he then put the story on Facebook. You know, but it's a question of finances. So when you get this little monkey news that you see around the place, it is when the government don't want, if the government allow you to bring it out, you know, or not, you're in trouble, you know. And then these politicians have made sure that they get their people appointed as editors and stuff, managing editors or whatever you call them these days. So when stories come in, you got somebody to block the story before it can get out. They tell me now at the nation that some, depending on, you can get some stories coming out, and if you want a story that hitting the government, you gotta wait till a certain person is off, because it can't get out. It is as simple as that, you know. So we don't have journalists who would investigate these matters, because if they do it, they're gonna be looking for work. So if not for this Marcy Week show, we would not get a lot of things that the public should know would not come out. And I always thank Marcia for allowing me to come on her show, because there were so many things I wanted to talk about. And since they took the Senate from under me, I had the president to go. So thank you, Marcia. I will never forget you. You know.
And I mean, on behalf of the people of Barbados, I thank you for the education that you are giving to the people, even just tonight.
Yeah.
And so it's a two-way street. So I say thank you on behalf of the people of Barbados, because one of the things, and you know it, Hemar knows it, nobody pays us to come on here. There's no ad. Nobody paid no ads on here. You understand? I try to keep this thing pure for you, for Barbados, that nobody can say they own this and tell me when to sit down and when to stand up and when to turn around. Absolutely not. I tell you now, that has not happened, and I've done everything I can do to keep myself away from that. Okay? And the people that you see here, they come out of their own free will to do what they have to do. Nobody on here is paid. None. And that's what
Marcia,
you can get the
I don't
purity.
want Kimar to go before I ask him a question because I want to hear him on the Prime Minister not turning up at the estimate, but she could turn up down here at Hammond's.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I suspect if Ralph wanted to hear the Prime Minister speak on anything, she'd go on Hammond's because he ain't gonna hear you in the house. You know what happened at Hammond's? This old factory has been converted to some entertainment center by Bernie Weatherhead, and the Prime Minister they're doing opening the night when she should be in Parliament during the day. She ain't in Parliament, but now she can find time to be and make it convenient enough because it would have to be arranged around her trips around the world because she don't got the time for Barbados really. I was telling somebody at Bra the other day, that look sharp. The Prime Minister might be able to claim that she's not resident in Barbados because for tax purposes, because you have to be in Barbados for 182 days a year, and she just don't qualify. So she don't qualify to pay tax in Barbados. Yeah, be careful. Everyone see her returns. She doesn't. She isn't here, but she can find time and make time to go and open a place of decadence, entertainment. Sorry, um, for and why she think that is more important than the estimates? Or I can't say think because I don't think that she does any of that. Because if she was doing any of that, she would leave Netanyahu alone. Because you heard the clip where she was making the statement that Netanyahu needs to be separated from the people of from people of Israel, and she want to find Netanyahu. She wanted to get rid of Putin. She want to get rid of me. She want to get rid of Marcy. She always want to get rid of everybody. But I want to hear you on this estimates thing, though, because clients is she there?
Well, to be honest, um, I don't suspect the Prime Minister will want to come and face the opposition leader. Um, Sitting on the receiving end of questions from Ralph, uh, based off the way he's been making those ministers look so far, I don't think she'll want to subject herself to that. Uh, there's no way to stand on the bully pulpit and rebut and rebuff with long-winded speeches. So she will not feel comfortable in a scenario like that. So you have the budget now where she can stand and speak for 4 hours as she wishes. And when the opposition leader stands to speak, she can rebuff and cut out and trample, and they could heckle him as they wish while he's on his feet speaking. But in the format that they have, um, that is not conducive to thing. I just don't think that she want to face questions from the opposition leader. There's so many things that she has to ask because remember she has about 13 ministries. So she will have to sit in the wells 13 times to be questioned 13 different times. And that just not happening, Casper. So her presence will be in the budget. Think about it. She has to sit and answer for investment. She has to answer for economic affairs. She has to answer for telecommunications. And we know the whole list. You really take that. You really take the Prime Minister wishes to do that.
Public service, finance. The list is almost endless.
Yeah, it's like
And she don't think that she should have to account to the people of Barbados for her actions. She doesn't have to account for playing loads of people flying off the place. I don't mind people going on vacations and stuff, but use your own money. This nonsense has to stop. Every cockfight outside of Barbados she won't go to. And then, well, in Barbados we only get hen fights though, but you know, our cockfights, because all the cocks have been neutered.
The question is, though, Kimar and Mr. Franklin, I would like to hear from the almost I can't remember how many persons on right now, can right, almost over 1,000 persons on. um what do they how does that make you feel to know that there is an estimate the prime minister is a minister over what is seven different ministries, and she was not present at the estimate. She came in and marked her name, but she didn't go in and sit down. The time she was in Barbados, she went in and marked her name, make sure that she's marked present, but she doesn't go and sit down. Barbadians, how do you feel about that? Is that something that you're accepting?
Now let me explain something to you, Marcy, um before the other people question it or answer or even speak on it. You only have to be there once to get on their mark for the entire session, because the estimates, this meeting is not adjourned. It's not an adjournment. So the host is if the host will adjourn the day, then you come back. You have to have a new sitting, but it's not a new sitting. It's a continuous sitting. So once you are there once, you are there all the time. So the records will show that the prime minister was present. So down the road, when you're looking for the records, you will see that the prime minister is present. But we know she was not there. You see, this you see, when you don't understand, when you don't know how Parliament operates, when they adjourned, they said the sitting is suspended. So if the sitting is suspended, it is still one sitting. So if she done it once and she's marked, she's been there,
Wow.
and the record will
Casual,
show that she was there.
Yeah,
casual,
go ahead, Kumar.
you know that last night it was, I believe, I saw this morning too. I watched a clip which was saying that the Barbados Labour Party um, and the government hosted the Chinese Communist Party for a big fete soiree happening yesterday, right? So it's on Facebook right now. The Chinese Communist Party had persons, they had clips, they had pictures, entourage, and said that they were seeking to form fraternal bonds and ties with the Barbados Labour Party, and they threw a big tea party happening yesterday.
Well, Snow is still with us, so I don't have a problem.
Yeah, but that's but I the most importantly though, let's look at this.
I'm slowly getting it. Listen,
Yeah,
Caswell.
yeah,
Caswell, the man making a very serious point. God.
I know.
Anyway, go ahead, Kimar.
yeah. I mean, but as I was saying, that one already caught me there off guard.
Well,
like,
listen,
like,
listen. I mean, when you think about it, I want to hear though from from Barbadians. Can think about it? Think about it. This is someone that is there. This is your prime minister. You heard on the show that has never happened. Never happened in the history of Barbados. You also had a vice president, a former vice president of Guyana on here, who was a minister of finance, and Caswell asked him the question: as a minister of finance, would you not be present at your estimates in your country? And he said, no, why would he do that? It sounded absurd to him. Why? The question is, why would we allow it? 260,000 of us here in Barbados. Why is that acceptable? Why? Ask yourself that.
but
Ask yourself that.
I want to finish off my point there quickly
Yes.
on the thing. Right. Um, I'm all for friends, Satellites. Yeah, but we need to look at priorities, right? That we need to look at priorities. If we can be holding receptions and parties and everything and fetching up, and the prime minister is showing up for these things and speaking and forming diplomacy, while the country is imploding, the entire estimate process surrounds the minister of finance and the government, right? Now, I will not try to paint any correlations between the presence of the Chinese Communist Party here now and bear any connection to the process of the estimates. I will not do that. Or bear any connection to the fact that the budget is on Monday and we're having this big recession soiree and maybe they'll be there to witness the budget as well. Because I don't think that they will leave just before the budget. I think they would want to stay here and to see the budget, right? But what would have been a good thing is if you really wanted to impress the Chinese Communist Party, you should have showed up for Parliament. You would have showed up and showed that you are serious about the affairs of the people. And for someone who has so much ministries, and you have your diplomatic guests here, and you will leave out the affairs of the people of the country, well, it speaks to priority.
If they want to impress the Chinese, they will lock up some of us here. So I don't want to impress the Chinese. We call them to lock up dissidents.
You
So they,
know, it's really sad. It's really sad what is going on. It's disrespectful, and anytime I hate to feel disrespected. I hate that feeling. I hate people feel like they can walk on us and they can walk and spit on us and rub their feet, clean their feet on us, and that's how it feels. I'm telling you, as a Barbadian, that's how it feels. If you are in the country and you could go to a party, Himar just sent it to me here. You could hold a party on this island. Huh? You could hold a party with the Chinese Communist Party, a big get together. You could go and open another fete, huh? An entertainment facility. Why can't you come and sit your butt down inside Parliament? You're bigger than Barbados. And that's why we are going out there on the street on the 23rd. The 23rd of March. And the first thing that we're marching for is the resignation of the Prime Minister of this country. We are asking for that. We are calling for it. Because you are no longer a Prime Minister. You're not, what you're doing. You're not working for us. You are working for yourself. You're selfish. Anyway, you know what? But this bothers me. I hate to feel disrespected. I hate it. Yeah, go ahead, Kimar. What are we seeing here, Kimar?
This seems to be the video speaking at Yemen's in St. Peter. That is not. I think that was you. That was not me.
Yeah, that is Heyman's. That is the entertainment facility, right, Caswell?
yes, it is.
Let me hear Rose. Rose, what are your thoughts about the Prime Minister turning up for this Communist Party soiree that they have, and plus going to opening up this entertainment facility, but we did not see her one day inside Parliament for the estimates. What are your thoughts about that? As a Barbadian.
Marcia and Kimar and Caswell and all the other listeners, if your memory serves you well, you would remember that I was the one who brought to the show the Prime Minister telling the public that she would be doing a lot of traveling in the days ahead. And she lifted up her cell phone and she said, but she will be using her cell phone to be in touch and to govern and manage remotely. I might not be quoting exactly, but that is what was implied or could have been interpreted. She said that she would be in touch using the technology and that she would be appointing a Sherpa to help her with the heavy load. And quoted, I went and I researched the amount of money the Prime Minister receives annually, the housing allowance, the entertainment allowance. And I asked the question, are you satisfied to pay her? We are paying her. We are paying her. The taxpayers are paying her. And I asked the audience, are we satisfied or should we be satisfied with the Prime Minister receiving that salary? And remember, I traced
Yes.
also what her maid and her messenger were receiving. And are you satisfied to be paying the Prime Minister this amount of money to manage to travel so frequently and to manage us remotely using the technology? And you remember I said that even teaching remotely online did not work, far less managing a government and having so many entities in her office, so many ministries and entities. That concerns me. So now you are here asking me, Marcia, how I feel. I registered my consternation immediately after it was announced at that I think a constituency meeting or something like that. And I would have expected that, given what the blame on COVID, the fallout on COVID, the setbacks on COVID, the ashfall, and all the other things that would have impacted on us in recent years, that the Prime Minister would have stayed close to hand to get us, back on track and to attend to outstanding matters. And therefore, I am not surprised at this behavior. I'm not surprised that there has been a no-show until this evening, this afternoon, just before um, the estimates were closed, until the closure of the debate on the estimates, until the Parliament meets um, next week on a Monday afternoon for her to present the budget. And I would have thought that leadership is by example, and that the Prime Minister would have uh, made an appearance, or, you know, tell us what's happening in your ministry. I don't know. I'm asking for persons because persons want to know if the Prime Minister and Caswell and Kimara may be in the position to advise us on that one, educate us on that. Is she exempted as from going into the well and ac- giving an account of her stewardship, or the stewardship or lack thereof, or the issues, concerns, problems, successes, weaknesses, strengths of her various ministries? Is she exempted, Kimar? Is she exempted, Caswell?
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. I'm not taken aback. But I must say that I am not even disappointed.
Yes.
I
What
am
1 second, Rose?
dissatisfied.
Miss Corbin, let me see. Kimar, you're trying to get my attention?
Yeah, I was telling you that I signing off now. So
Yes. Okay. I didn't see. Okay. All
yeah,
right. Thank you so much, Kimar, for joining us tonight. God bless,
yeah,
and we see you
Good night, Kimar.
on
Nice,
Sunday.
nice to see you.
yes,
And
yes. So
thanks for
sad
that
to go.
Thank you,
update.
Kimar, and take care.
Yeah, thank you. So sad to
Yes.
go. Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if she, Marcia, I am not disappointed. Anything happens now in this administration, anything happens, you see the the uh, the manner in which government business is conducted in the lower house and the upper house. Um, you see how civil servants are being thrust. I listened to the various debates, and no minister really gave any account, um, acted with accountability for their ministries. They would um, throw it over to somebody else, the PS or the
Yes.
head of a department. So this lack of accountability, and they seem to be follow the leader, the leader, the leader.
Yeah.
Nobody's
All in
accountable.
all. All in
Nobody
all.
turns up.
Yeah.
So Marcia, I'm not satisfied. I am not disappointed. I must say I am not satisfied
Yes.
with this
Well,
treatment.
we have thank you so much, Miss Corbin. I know you brought this up before, so I wanted to get your thoughts on this particular issue, because it just rubs me the wrong way. You know, but we have with us here for a few minutes. She jumped in, and you hear the sirens there. She's in New York. So Heather is here representing the diaspora, and she was very, very busy the last couple of months. And while we were talking WhatsApp, she was unable to come on to the platform. But Heather is here. Miss McLean is coming as well. But Heather, I know this is a topic. Heather is very has a lot to say about the prime minister, and just her what's been happening to her in terms of her whereabouts. Heather, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be back again. I was not on for quite a long time, but I am here tonight. But what I can say is that I was here when we had only 200 and 300 people logging on to the show. And I feel so happy to see over 1,000 people joining the show each night. It is a joy. So it shows that patience and hard work really does wonders. It causes you to achieve your goals. So I am glad that Marcia hanged in there, and that she did not give up on the current issues that are affecting Barbados, because without that, we would not be here where we are tonight, discussing all of the topics that are of relevance, not only economically, politically, but socially as well, that are affecting the country.
Yes.
So,
And I must tell the people that you didn't just start doing work in Barbados the last 7 months or so. You're in New York, and you always had a hand in Barbados. I remember with the GIS that it was on my show. I think you were in the comment section, and we were talking about doing a mark for the GIS, and that
quite a
idea
while
came up
ago,
with the
yes.
show. Yeah, and out of that, we did so much work for young people in Barbados out of that particular show. And you're in the diaspora, and that's why I say all the time, I always hail up the diasporans, those who are watching from New York, wherever you're watching from. Heather, you're in New York. But Heather, you've been
Yes.
listening to the show, and you've been watching the news, you've been watching the estimates, etc., and you're not seeing the prime minister. What's going through your mind as a Barbadian living in New York?
Well, what is going through my mind are several things, but initially, it doesn't seem that Barbados has a prime minister anymore, or anyone who is acting in that capacity. because her primary function is Barbados, everything that happens in Barbados. And that is where she should be, and that is where she should be working and concerned with. But yet we see the Prime Minister flying all over the place. And just this past week, she was in Haiti, she was in St. Vincent. And if I can touch on the Haitian aspect of it, the Haitians do not want CARICOM to solve their problems. The Haitians had the French try, the former colonial masters tried to solve their problems, and it did not work. It made it worse. It made them suffer for hundreds of years after the French Revolution. And now the Haitians do not want CARICOM solve their problem, try to solve their problems for them, rather. They would rather do it themselves. The way how I see it, if they have a transitional government, the transitional government becomes permanent. What it needs is an election, and to have it happen at the fastest time possible. A transition government may take 2 or 3 years, and it all depends on what it does is that somebody's interests bears down on the transitional government, and it will not necessarily be the government that the people wants. So here they will be stuck again with another government. The leader that just was forced to resign, they were stuck with him because after the president was assassinated, there should have been an election shortly thereafter. That did not happen. So there are lots of things that are contributing to the way that Haiti currently is. But they do not want outside assistance. Not that they do not want developmental help, because yes, I believe that. But when it comes to politics, they would prefer to forge their own destiny. And that is what those people must be afforded. I have confidence that they can do it for themselves. And right now, the talks that were with the formation of the transitional government, the gangs said that it is not going to work. And if they said so, it is not going to work. So that is where that is at. But if we can go back to the Prime Minister, why, and as I said when I started out, it seems as though she is an ambassador at large, all over the place, but not in Barbados. And it is Barbados who needs her more than ever to fix the multiplicity of problems that they have in Barbados right now. What she's doing overseas has no impact on the people in Barbados. It doesn't benefit them one way or the other. So why is her focus on the world and not Barbados when Barbados elected her? The people in Barbados elected her. The world did not put her in that position. So that is my contention about that. And one more thing, the estimates. I think that she can't face the people of Barbados in the estimates because there are too many questions that have to be answered. That's why she's not showing up. So it's as though she has disregarded her role as Prime Minister as well. If she is not happy, she should go. That is the way simply how I feel about it. Why hang on if you no longer care? If you cared, you would put 100% of your efforts into making Barbados the place that everyone thought that you would have taken it when you were first elected. But we're seeing none of that, and the people do not need to go on anymore. I personally feel that if she don't leave, she should be removed. Simple as that.
Yeah. You know, she talks about Netanyahu being separated.
Netanyahu.
Sorry. Netanyahu.
Yes.
Being separated from Israel. You know, and I think we need her separated from Barbados so we can have proper governance. You know, so at least we can have proper governance. But It's good to hear you. Good to hear you, Heather. Good to see you. Please stay on. We're gonna have a little discussion, a little further discussion. You'll get some more time at the end before we close.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
but let me just go to Miss McLean at this time. Maxine McLean, good to see you again, Madam.
Hello,
And
good evening, everybody, and good to see Heather.
yes,
Nice to
yes,
see you
yes.
too.
And we had Dr. Sonia Brown. Her name keeps coming up. I don't, we're gonna we need her to come and visit the show as well, because her name keeps coming up, and I'm glad that people see that she is BLP, and we are talking about her. Because why are we talking about her? Because she's standing up and speaking on behalf of the people, and I hope you all get it. It's not about party. So Dr. Sonia Brown, we are mentioning her again tonight because she raised some important points in Parliament today in the estimates, things that Caswell Franklin was raising on the show, and she took it to Parliament today, and the media refused to bring to bring it to the people. It's almost like it's a comment that's lost, and I'm glad that Maxine McLean is here. Former senator is here, and she's going to pick up on where Dr. Brown, where she left off in the estimates today. Miss McLean, so over to you.
Marcia, I sent you a copy of the last order that was made by a minister, the last land tax rate order made by St. Clair in 2015. That will show you the format of it. So I sent it to your email.
Okay, thank you,
So
and
you
we
can
will.
put it up so the people can see it.
We can put it up.
So you can
Thank you so
put it
much.
up. So sorry for
Yes.
that, Maxine. And,
No,
and
no problem.
Heather, I'm so good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
No, that's fine, and I'll speak about what Dr. Brown said, and I if I have time, I want to go back to something casual, not casual, that Kimar said, because there's a bit of information. I had to move from in front of my computer, but I think I raised it, but so that people understand, Marcy, what it was. Dr. Brown raised the issue, and she seems to raise issues that make her colleagues uncomfortable. And in fact, that is the purpose of that exercise. If you had an opposition larger than one, that hopefully we would see the kind of serious questioning and so on. But Dr. Brown raised the question of the location of the new geriatric hospital. For those who, and I'm sure most Barbadians are aware, in the area of Waterford, close to the stadium, to Mayor School, the bell, and I think that's critical as well in terms of the bell, because of the question she was posing. They have started construction of a new geriatric hospital. Interestingly enough, when I passed there, I realized that the construction method suggests to me this is precast concrete. And I don't know, Caswell, if I need, and others, if I need to say more, whose company is probably constructing that. But I looked at it, and I actually expressed to Caswell, because we were driving Marcy on Sunday together. But she asked the question about the location, because the location is part of what used to be, as far as persons of my generation and before and so on, was an area that was very much restricted because it was one of those protected water zones. If you look at the island is categorized into zones in terms of the water situation, in terms of what it's part of a water protection policy. Let me put it that way. Everybody knows that in Barbados we get our water from the underground aquifers. The water filters through the limestone, and we therefore get our water from those underground sources. And therefore, and thanks, I actually shared this document from the Planning and Development Department Water Protection Policy. So the question that Dr. Brown was asking is, can you basically tell, she was asking about the zoning what was it previously zoned as. You can, yeah, if you go back, I will read it, but you can put up the map. Just go to the map and leave the map there for a while. I can read from the document that I shared with you. So she was asking the question, what was the zoning? And if you recall, in recent times, in the last year or two, the government decided that it was going to do a zoning reclassification. And this would have happened around 2020 or so. I think government decided that they were going to look at rezoning. I grew up hearing of Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, Zone 5. And basically, those zones had to do with what requirements had to be observed or put in place, because the concern was that if you had, let me put it this way, you had to protect our water resources and to avoid contamination of the water resources, those aquifers. You had strict guidelines as to what could happen there. And Zone 1, for example, was one of those very, restricted zones. And I'll read from the document which comes with this map. It says, the groundwater protection policy was established in 1963. As a result of the recommendations of some Tellstrom study. These policy, and I didn't get a chance to look for that study, but I will do that because this would have been a discussion that took place this afternoon. These policies were revised in 1973 and have been submitted to Parliament for further revisions. So this is looking now at the new policies. The new policies have not been ratified to date. Now, this article would have been written in February 18, 2022, and I would have to go and look at the legislation. But essentially, the new policies will do away with the Zone 1 to 5. So the policy would no longer consist of Zone 1 to 5, but rather Zone A to E. So you have A, B, C, D, E, same 5 categories, but they don't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 anymore. The policies for each zone will determine what can be built and the waste disposal method required. The zones are named as follows. And it goes through 1. Owners of existing properties in Zone 1 areas be allowed to rebuild their houses and to install water closets, meaning water toilets. And Zone A are pathogen exclusion groundwater protection areas. Zone B are pathogen management groundwater protection areas. Zone C, chemical management groundwater protection areas. Zone D, recharge contributing groundwater protection areas. Zone E are non-recharge contributing groundwater protection areas. And it says until the new policy has been ratified, the department will continue to work according to the previous policy, which is as follows. 1, owners of existing properties in Zone 1 area are allowed to rebuild their houses and install water closets and showers under the following conditions. Houses should remain as one family dwellings. Where a water closet is installed, waste disposal should be by means of a septic tank and a filter bed of activated carbon and a soakaway no deeper than 15 feet. There shall be no change in the use of existing buildings, and there should be no subdivision of land where vacant lots will be created. The area of greatest restriction are classified as Zone 1, and normally no new developments are allowed by either the Planning and Development Department or the Environmental Protection Department. Now, I don't want to get too technical because I know we don't have a lot of time, but the critical question that was asked by Dr. Brown was, there were 2 questions, well, 2 broad questions. One, what was the classification of that area in which they have constructed, or in which they are constructing rather, the geriatric hospital? And given that that classification, now I was thinking, and I would have to go and pinpoint it on the map. And as I said, it was this afternoon, and I'll go back to that to be sure. I'll speak to environment people and so on, because I don't, but she was asking whether it was one or two. Now, what befuddled me, colleagues, was that you had two ministers of health, the minister in and the minister of state or parliamentary secretary. I think he's minister of state, whatever is the second member of parliament. We have Minister Walcott, Senior Minister Walcott, and if I were to use the description of the leader of the opposition, he's the senior minister of the senior ministers. And but he was asked, and then you had a large number of public officials from the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Environment, and all of the units that fall under the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And so the question Dr. Brown asked was, what was it? Was it zone 1 or 2? What were the restrictions? What did that classification allow? And what is the new classification? And what does that new classification allow? And I came away from that estimates debate without a definitive answer. And that struck me as passing strange, to use an expression that some people I know like to use. Why couldn't they say definitively, this is what it was 1 or 2? But for me, that, and when Caswell said the Bell, I can tell you, I grew up understanding that the Bell area was a zone 1. And that is why, for example, you would notice that in the area across from the stadium where we now have the botanical gardens, there has not been, I'm 68 years old, Marcy, this year, and I don't hide it. And in my lifetime, I have not seen construction in that area at all. And the question, therefore, is, and I think there was a question, is it zone 2? I will not argue, because the technocrats were there, the policymakers directly involved in the construction of that geriatric hospital, because I saw images of Minister Walcott when that whole process started. And so it is strange that nobody could say definitively what it was, what it is now, and what the restrictions are. And the reason for that, and when I read, for example, Zone 1 talks about individual houses. Now we are talking about a hospital that houses and that would have residents, because this is not a hospital where patients come and go generally. It's residential. It's a geriatric hospital. And that is what I am not clear. The question Vihoy is asking, is the hospital in that water zone? I was unable, I didn't have enough time because I was busy doing some other things. While I was listening to Parliament, as I indicated, I was doing something and I was listening to Parliament at the same time. I wanted to contact some environmental engineers and somebody, if I could find somebody from environment. So I will flag it and I will promise to have a definitive answer. But my understanding is, and I am using my basic common sense, that having lived on this earth as long as I have, 6+ decades, almost 7, I grew up seeing no construction in that area. There was a house from as far back as I can remember, or some building, if it was a 2-story structure on the opposite side of where the hospital is being constructed, that was a partial complete, a structure that was started. It is not very advanced, and it has remained in that state all of my life. As long as I was traversing that area, it was never completed. I always wondered if somebody started it and had to be stopped because they were building in the wrong area or whatever. I don't know. That's a mystery to me personally. But the key point that I'm making is we need to know definitively. I know then the question, and Dr. Brown did some further probing, and the Minister of Health, Senator Walcott, did indicate something about what was going to happen in terms of sewage and that kind of thing, what was supposed to be constructed. But it is something that Barbadians need to know, because you can't tell me that you have a project as serious as that, which is going to cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. and that you should be able to pull a document, any one of them, and say, listen, this is it. This is what it used to be. This is what was restricted, because as I said, nothing was constructed there for all these decades. But we have reclassified it under our reclassification, and we now can do this. But my other question is, what is the rationale for reclassifying an area, if it is reclassified into something less restricted? What is the rationale for classifying something as sensitive to our water supply, something that has serious implications for the health and wellness, using part of the name of the ministry of the population of this country to do that? So I felt very uncomfortable. I felt as though the minister, his junior minister, and all the persons there who could have answered were hedging, because and for something like this, I would have expected a definitive answer. And in fact, I would say that if I were going to that meeting in any of the capacities of those persons where that matter would have been a question that reasonably would come to me, that we should have had it. And in fact, I step back from the estimates and say that that is something that I should have been able to pick up in my research, that I was trying to find some documentation online. And so I think that, again, this is a clear example of a rather opaque situation. We talk about transparency and good governance, but I am not into slogans. I am into substance. We talk about form versus substance. And for me, this makes me very uncomfortable, because we know the source of our water supply. I remember there were issues with people. I remember back in 2006 seeing a receipt of somebody who showed their employer that they had, quote unquote, bought a piece of land somewhere in that Waterford bottom area. And the question was, how could you buy land there? There are serious restrictions. But remember what I read, that even with the changes, you would be allowed to rebuild their houses where there were houses. You were allowed then to install water toilets and showers under very clear conditions, that you had to install waste disposal via septic tanks, which meant nothing should filter down to the aquifers. There should be no change in the use of existing buildings, and there should be no subdivision of land where vacant lots will be created. The area of greatest restriction as classified as zone 1 and norm, whatever. So I really would put the question back to the minister, and I thank Dr. Brown for raising it. I think as a medical practitioner, she understands from listening to her the seriousness of this. Now, the other thing I want to make the point, I heard Dr. Walcott, or should I address him? Once you are a fellow of the Royal College of, in his case, surgeons, he would be Mr. Walcott, Senator Walcott. As he said, give
him his title. If you're going to do that, you gotta give him his title, the most honorable.
That's right,
Mr.
That's another
John
question.
Walcott.
Caswell, I want to ask how many most honorables we have had named recently, and how does that compare? But I heard him refer to Dr. George, so let me refer to him properly. The most honorable senator, Doctor, if he prefers.
No, Mr.
Doctor, Mr. Because when you become Mr. after being doctor, that means that you're higher up on the totem pole in your medical profession. So the most honorable Senator, Mr. Jerome Walker, I would want to ask him to clarify for us, what is the zone on which the new geriatric hospital is being constructed? What are the restrictions that are obtained now? What was the zone before? I'm just repeating the questions that I thought I understood Dr. Brown to be asking. What was the zone prior to the reclassification? And what were the restrictions? And what has changed, if anything? And I have a strong feeling that is constructed in an area with significant restrictions. Now, my worry is that a hospital as much as he says that you have to put in place a whole set of things, and we also need to ask him, given where it is located, whatever the zone, and given the history of that area, that Bell area, what are the potential risks of failure of any of the systems that they have? People are using medications. We are talking about a hospital where people become ill, even though it's a geriatric hospital, largely residential, but you have residents and patients who will become ill. You have all kinds of medications and whatever being utilized. And so, there are several questions, and to almost this, I don't want to say dismiss it in a cavalier fashion, because I would hate to think that any policymaker, particularly people of the medical profession, and those at the level of policymakers and those at the level of public office would treat it cavalierly. But my worry is that in the absence of an answer and a definitive set of answers, my question is why, and what therefore is truth, and we need to hear it. And I hope that, and I certainly will channel the information, Marcia, to the issue that we have here, to the leader of the opposition, because this is something that needs to be followed up on. But it really left me very concerned. I mean, I have been following, and that, today was the last day of that part of the estimates debate, and it was interesting to hear when it was something which a colleague asked, and they were being, it was something that a minister felt that he or she could respond to. They were quite happy to give us expansive explanations, but something as critical as this, I was unhappy. I don't know how many Barbadians listened to it, but I was unhappy because, I although my water supply doesn't come directly from that area, it comes from the area, as far as I know, usually where we have the desal plant down near the beach. That's where this water supply is supposed to come from. At the end of the day, our water supply, generally, that water itself also comes at some point from the aquifers, etc. So, Marcia, that was my big concern. And I want to say something very quickly before we go, before I hand over to you. And that has to do with, and I don't know if it was raised when Kimar was talking about this whole business. The money that is being utilized, that was being utilized for the financing of the these houses in this Hope Inc. comes from a fund called the Housing Credit Fund. And Caswell can tell you that that is a set of money that was put in place. I made a note of it. Let me see if I can find the note so I don't tell you no lies. This fund was set up around 1963, I believe, or so. And it used to be managed by the Ministry of Housing. The idea was that there were people in Barbados. Housing has always been a major problem. And in 2004 or so, the central bank took control of that fund. It is I've been advised, let me put it there, I've been told, and I asked the question, therefore, is there any truth that the monies used to finance this fiasco of Hope Inc., this project that seems to drive fear and hopelessness in the hearts of those who are hoping to get a house, came from that housing credit fund? And is it true that up to $60 million, I can tell you that about 2004, from the research I saw when the monies went over to the central bank, it was about $100 million. I don't know how much it is now. I can tell you that when, and I will go and look for that and tell you, when we were seeking to utilize some of those funds to deal with emergency housing repairs and so on after a major weather event in Barbados, this now administration in opposition were very vocal in opposition to using those funds to help Barbadians. But my understanding, back to the point, and the question I am asking, therefore, is there any truth to the fact, or to the statement, sorry, that $60 million of funds would have been accessed from this fund, which was supposed to provide financing for the housing, for housing to address that, and the money from the central bank was supposed to be channeled through financial institutions. So my question is, was $60 million, dollars made available to this fund? I got my note here. As I said, okay, the Housing Credit Fund was established in 1962 at 82 to alleviate the shortage of housing in Barbados. On the 1st of February 2004, the central bank took responsibility for the management of the fund. As I said, so just making sure I have my facts correct, Marcy and Caswell and Heather and company. And I think I see Rose as well, and all the Barbadians listening. It was previously administered by the then Ministry of Housing, Lands and the Environment, I think it was called, and it was referred to as a second-tier mortgage market wholesaler. And it provided funds to financial institutions to finance housing. And I remember as a credit unionist, at some point, one or more credit unions considered accessing that fund. So the question is, was $60 million made available? What rules exist now? Because I presume that they provide money under a set of rules and procedures. And if so, it has been provided. To whom has that money been provided? How much of that money has been used? And is there any truth that there's less than $200 and perhaps as little as $100,000 out of $60 million left in the account that received that $60 million, if it is true? That information, I promise you, I will share with the leader of the opposition, and hope that somewhere in his budget response, he can put that information there. Because as you were saying, housing is one of those critical areas, and it is one in which the government opted not to put on the scrutiny.
Yeah.
And for me, that is serious, because $60 million of taxpayers intended to provide housing to the people who are least able to access traditional mortgage sources, etc. So my question, I now pose a question to the board and to the management, including the governor of the central bank. Can you provide Barbadians with an up-to-date report on the Housing Credit Fund? Is it still under the management of the Central Bank of Barbados? What has been the activity in that fund? And how has it been accessed? How has it been utilized? Give us a report, because I sit down and I get angry about these things. And
this is part of what we're going to do, because I know Mr. Franklin, Ms. McLean, what we can do is to continue raising these questions. The opposition hopefully is going to be able to raise it, on Tuesday, and we will continue to air it out on the program. Thank you so much, Ms. McLean, for what you've shared this evening. Very eye-opening. And I know the government, they have people from the government watching. We want to hear about this Housing Credit Fund. You hear the questions being asked this evening. Mr. Franklin, there's something that you sent to us that you want to look into, and we went into your time a bit with Kimar, so I'm very aware of that. Can you do that now? Thank you.
Yes. What this document is, the one I sent you, it's what they call, and I'll just read it for you, the land tax rate of tax order, and this one was the 2015 one made by Sinclair. The Prime Minister, in her budget of 2023, if you go up to the second page, because this second page just tells you what the rates are, right? she changed the bottom rate from point, point eight 0.80% to nine to 95 0.95% for the that value. It was supposed to take effect in the budget, but they never passed it, so it should not be in place now. The highest rate is in law in Barbados right now. Don't mind the people at BRA is imposing a higher rate. They don't have any law to back them up on that. They're imposing a rate that does not exist. That is one thing. It doesn't exist in law. It might exist at BRA, but it certainly does not exist in law. So even if what they were saying is correct, they cannot charge at a rate at that level. They don't have any such authority. And remember, earlier in the week, I went through the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act. I'm pointing out to you that after 4 months, if the tax was levied and you didn't bring the order, pass the legislation, you had to refund the tax. What they will do is to come 2-3 years down the road and say, oh, we can validate that, meaning that you're going to take away some person's property in retrospect, and that is against the Constitution. You cannot take away some person's money without due process of law, and right now there is no law in place to charge that higher rate. But that is not my main point. The point is that I want you to see what land tax use. And if you look at the categories, you do not see anything in here written about agricultural land. Nothing. It says the first category on the improved value of each parcel of land for residential purposes, A, up to $150,000, zero tax. On the excess of the improved value, greater than $150,000 but not exceeding $450,000, 0.10%. Then it goes on. C, on the excess of the improved value greater than $450,000 but not exceeding $1 million, you pay 0.45%. On the excess, and then D, on the excess of the improved value greater than $1 million, 0.75%. Then that is for residential purposes. Okay. The next thing here is on the improved value of each parcel of land on which there is a building other than a residence, you charge 0.70%. And the final one is on the site value of each parcel of unimproved land. So if there is nothing on the land, you will charge which is the highest rate. And this is what, and because agricultural land is unimproved land, if you don't have a building on it, you charge at that rate. However, there's provision in the law and in the Land Tax Act for a rebate if you use it for agriculture. But that has to be certified by the Ministry of Agriculture. They give you a certificate, you take it to BRA, and BRA will lower your taxes. But nobody in BRA has the power to raise your taxes willy-nilly outside of these rates. And certainly they can't levy a tax on a category that does not exist under their legislation, which is the Land Tax Act. The Land Tax Act does not speak to a rate for agricultural land. So when they went and said, well, Dr. Brown has agricultural land, no, she had piece of land with a house on it, so it was land with an improved value, so it should have been taxed in category 1 up here, basically 1, either A, B, C, or D. So if her property was worth over $1 million, then she would pay 0.75%. And then if somebody else though has a piece of land where they have a warehouse on the land where they store their stuff, whatever, and you got agriculture there, there is a provision in the Land Tax Act which says that even if you have a residential land where you have but you use it primarily for farming, you can still get the rebate because you use the land mostly for farming, and that is it. So the situation when they're trying to mislead people, they can mislead Ryan Strong and MIA-MOTTLEY and those people because those people don't, and I don't blame them because they don't know everything. And when you mislead the minister, when you're a public officer, it's a serious offense and you can be dismissed from public service. But Bra is not no public service. So apparently they can probably mislead and get away with it. But I just want people to realize that I am not making these things up. This is what the law requires. This is what the law says. And people in Bra interpreting the law to suit themselves. Well, you now have your own eyes. You can look at this document and see where it says agricultural land and that the rate you pay on agricultural land. It does not appear in this document. There are no other rates of tax in Barbados for land.
Wow.
That is the problem.
Wow.
We have too many little tin gods operating, some little public officers who get the little power in their hand and want to terrorize people with it. Poor thing. Dr. Brown had 25 broilers that she's used for feeding herself, instead of buying the ones that people get hormones to, so she knows she could kill hers and put them in the fridge and let it last for a long time. And two dogs and a couple of holes of bananas or something like that. That's not agriculture. That's not even for that can't even be considered agricultural land for the purposes of paying taxes and going to the Ministry of Agriculture. Because the Ministry of Agriculture will say, no, that is not a farm and we can't give you the rebate.
Right.
So it is not agricultural land.
Yeah.
But somebody wanted to victimize her and other people in Stanford and the surrounding areas, so they go after them. Mind you, they wouldn't go after the people in their own department that got massive properties and got them valued a little bit more than a child house. And there's something, I think I mentioned it in the show before. You see, they said on the site value of each parcel of land, of unimproved land, if you go into land tax, you will see several pieces of land with a house on it. But if you go to the actual site, you will see no house. So somebody went into the computer and put a house on that land. But when you go and eyeball it, you don't see a house. No house is there. But then they will check. They will pay 0.45 as opposed to 0.80, or they might pay 0.1 depending on the value of the land. All right. So that is why I am asking for a forensic audit, and the forensic audit cannot be done by the people that are subject to the investigation. So when they set up some person to do an investigation in Bra, they're making a mockery of the whole thing, because one senior officer has been dedicated. No, the Auditor General or some other outside person must do this audit. A guy spoke to me today, Marcy. I think you recommended him to speak to me. And he was being robbed for 23 years. 23 years. And the thing is, they were lying to him. So when he called them, they would give him, because he didn't have the legislation in front of him, or he didn't know what the legislation says, he only realized that he was being misled and being robbed when he actually went and get legislation himself. But how many people would be able to read and understand that legislation? So there's so many people out there are being robbed right now. The best thing the government could do right now is abolish land tax, because we have too many sources of tax in Barbados right now. You remember when they introduced VAT, they got rid of a lot of taxes because they said be paid.
We're 1 minute to 10.
Yeah. So they abolished all these taxes, and now they're all them creep back in by another name. So you have VAT plus these taxes. Barbados, they work to pay taxes. More depending on how if you're like, for instance, middle income in the public service, right, you pay more your money in tax in it than you spend on yourself, and that's a fact. This a minute, it's almost 10, so I'm not going to go any further. I just wanted the people to see this.
We will continue. We will keep pushing. We have a lot of things there that we need to keep pushing at. We must march. We must march on the 23rd the 23rd. That's not tomorrow, Saturday, next week, Saturday at 10 o'clock. And we are congregating right there at the mall, Kensington Mall, right there in Massy, we say Massy Car Park, Kensington Mall, right across from Kensington Oval. That's where we're going to meet, and we are going to be talking about this land tax as well. What the sentiment that is coming up is that, listen, we are tired of all of these taxation, and listen, we want to get rid of the land tax. We don't want to pay that anymore because you till figure out what this thing is all about. You yourselves don't even know what it's about, right? There are many things, but this is definitely one of them. The external investigation of ROC is another area that we are going to. One of the other reasons we are marching. We are marching for the resignation of the prime minister. We need to put pressure on her to resign. It's not working out for us. And April 1st is coming, and we're saying the prime minister and the MP should not get a raise. You have done nothing. You're not doing anything for Barbados. What you're doing is of no use to us. So we need you. You should not be getting any raise about here. We're telling we're telling Flo that $35, you need to go back to the drawing board with that. Go back to the drawing board with that $35. It's not going to work. We can't pay our bills on time because of all these taxes that we're paying. We work, and when the time comes, so with our little money that we get, we pay so many taxes, so much taxes. We can't pay our bills. So give us some grace, right? Why $35? That doesn't make sense. Where did you come up with that? No, right? No muzzling of our citizens, the removal of certain sections of the cybercrime bill, the sections we've been calling out on the show, the Hope Housing Project scandal. That thing is like, it's so corrupt. I tell you, it's a definition of corruption. We want to talk about the adverse effects of that thing that went in the people's arm. So many persons are sick. With doctor certificates, and the doctors themselves are afraid to speak about it. You believe that? The doctors themselves, they're saying that the next thing that they have no practice when they're finished. The doctors, we're marching for better working conditions for the teachers and students, to remove the double taxation on pension. Yes, and we want that retirement age back to where it was too. Okay, so guys, don't forget that is Saturday, next week Saturday, 10 o'clock. So as we close, Heather, can you take a minute and give us our final words before it's 10:03, so we don't have a lot of time?
Yes. In case she has not realized it, Dr. Sonia Brown is now an opposition member within the government. She is the poster child for the removal of land tax. And I hope that she knows the power that she has and what she can do with it. She has a whole constituency behind her, not just one person or two persons, an entire constituency. So it's up to her to do something about that, not sit down. Yes, she has raised it in the form of a protest in Parliament, but there is a lot more that can be done. And I am sure that if she stands up more, her constituents will follow her and the rest of Barbados. But I have a lot more to say about probably next week.
Yes, definitely. We look forward to having you back, Heather, because it's a voice from the diaspora, and that is so important. Mrs. Corbin, and such an excellent session that we plan to take out that session and to just have it as a standalone. But can you take a half a minute and say what are your final thoughts to the people?
Yes, I thank you. I want to say a personal good night to Heather. Good seeing you with us. And I do agree with the comments you shared about concerning Dr. Brown. I'm very pleased with her various contributions. Thanks again for the opportunity to serve here with you, Maxine and Caswell and Marcia. And I just want to tell our loyal sons and daughters all, firm craftsmen of our faith, keep focused and remember that Barbados is our land and we have to protect it for the present. We have to secure it for the future. And we have to do our ancestors proud who made contributions in the past. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mrs. Corbin.
You're welcome.
And yes, Miss McLean. Thank you for those great, the great research that you did. We had a lot of research tonight, boy. Everybody did research tonight. This is solid, solid, solid. Thank you so much. What do you say to the people before?
Well, I say to them, we take what we do seriously here. That's why you would get that level of research. I say to the Prime Minister of Barbados, if you are tired of the job, tell the people your absence from Parliament cannot be excused by anybody, regardless of how partisan political they may be. There is a responsibility, there are a set of tasks and assignments, and we'll call it what responsibilities, let me say, that go with the job. And your cavalier way of dealing with it is not acceptable. The other point I would make in relation to that, as I sit and watch the optics of it, the Prime Minister sitting at the top of the row will be sitting facing directly the leader of the opposition. He's not going to go anywhere. So you could as well face him and deal with the people's business. But what you're doing, and you have not been away for the entire period. You have been in Barbados, and you need to deal with the business of the people first. And the estimates is the basis on which you get permission. This process is the process by which you get permission to use taxpayers' money. Treat it with the seriousness that it should be treated with. And I wouldn't say a treat to, that's an expression you like to use, but I hate to hear people use it. You need to treat it with the seriousness, and to take the job as Prime Minister and Minister of Finance and all the other ministries that go with that fall under your portfolio seriously. The public is not amused. I've engaged, people have engaged me because I haven't gone out there looking to talk to anybody, but everywhere I go, people stop me and they're expressing concern about this. They themselves are not amused. They're perplexed, they're disappointed, and they're really trying to understand what game you're playing when we're dealing with matters of state that are very serious.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ms. McLean. Well said. And Mr. Franklin, thank you so much. Great expose tonight. Great research. The whole panel was on tonight. Thanks to Kimar is not here right now. But Mr. Franklin, what do you say to the people as we close?
Well, I am not going to. I'm going to defend the Prime Minister now. I'm not used to.
Really?
I honestly, the Prime Minister, I remember hearing about MIA-MOTTLEY long before I even knew who she was, and people were talking about what a precocious child she was and thing. But I've only found out that word meant force rape. And you want to see big people talking. When we were small, you start talking with big people talking, you get a slap. But apparently she should have gotten a few of those. So having not gotten a few of those, she went on her way believing how great she was. And she wanted to be Prime Minister. And I like young people with ambition. She wanted to be Prime Minister. What the Prime Minister did not understand, she did not equip herself to be Prime Minister. Because what she must understand is that there are two skill levels in government when you're dealing with politics. One, you have a set of skills to use to win the election. And then after you win the election, then there's another set of skills. You put those winning skills aside and you use another set to manage the economy. The Prime Minister has none of those. So if she is hiding, she is just hiding away from her deficiencies. So I'll have to defend her, and I'll tell you that she know what she's doing. And but she can talk a pretty talk and stuff, and she can get up and she make nice fancy speeches and things. That is the level of her competence. Anything above that, there's the Peter principle. So you reach the level of your incompetence. But the Prime Minister has reached the level of her incompetence so long ago. She reached the level of her incompetence as minister, but she still had aspirations to be Prime Minister. She's gotten there. But no, unless she's really narcissistic. Again, that's a disease, so you can't really kill somebody for being sick. Unless she's really narcissistic, she should know by now that she ain't managing the job and she doesn't know what to do. But then, and as I said in the program previously, that the Prime Minister, I believe, she has psychiatric issues. Nobody in their right mind behaves like this. She likes the stage, she likes the notice, she likes the thing. And so, but that has been your little spoiled child, and so I can understand where she's coming from, and I feel for her,
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for your analysis and your opinion on the matter. Yes,
And it's empathy.
I see the empathy. Guys, I just want to lift up the computer again. Those of you who might have come late. All right, so this is the laptop that we bought. Everybody on here, in one night we were able to raise almost $1,400, and got this laptop for the students at Leicester. And you can, if you need a copy of the receipt, you can message me 236-7000, and I put it in. There's a chat. Some of us are in. The receipt is in the chat. Mr. Franklin will get the computer tomorrow, so that he can give it to the child, and hopefully the child can get it to school on Monday. Thank you, loyal opposition. Thank you. You're practical people and making it happen right here on the Marcia Week Show. Everybody, good night. FX Trading, Isis R. King, Square 4, Alex Mitchell, Pete Way, Judith Ann Clark, Diana Seeley, Esther Blue, Colin Roach, Simon Daniel, Lemuel Tull, Esther Blue, oh my goodness, Square 4, Arlene. So many of you are on, and God bless you. Without you, there's no show. So we're going to be on again on Sunday, the day before the budget. Come on, you got to be here. And make sure you share, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like. All right. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye bye. Good night, everybody.